A 7-year-old girl and her 13-year-old brother are settling in for their favorite after-school activity, watching TV. The children's parents won't be home from work for several hours, and watching the after-school programming together before making a snack is a staple of their day. The boy takes his normal position on the couch as the girl plants herself right in front of the television and turns it on. This is the time when Pretty Pony Paradise comes on, and she never misses an episode. Her brother would prefer something else, but he also loves to see his sister happy, so he always lets her watch the ponies have their adventures. Today, though, when she turns to the right channel, there's something else. Instead of the usual Pretty Pony theme song, circus music comes out of the television speakers. The girl watches as the brightly colored words, "Bobble the Clown," appear on the screen. "Hey, this isn't Pretty Ponies," she says to her brother, but when she looks back, he's asleep. The girl isn't happy, but she decides to give this new show a chance. And maybe her pony show will come on after anyway. The circus music stops, and a happy-looking clown cartwheels onto the screen.
"Hello, kids,"
the garish clown says.
"Do you like fun?"
The girl did like fun. Perhaps this new show wouldn't be so bad. She watches as Bobble walks down the street of an average, happy American small town. Everyone seems to love the happy clown, waving at him as he passes by. Bobble pauses in front of a house where a man is mowing the lawn. He convinces the man to stop his yard work and join him, and the two happily head down the sidewalk together. The girl is a little confused by this show. There's not much in the way of jokes, but she decides to keep watching anyway. Bobble and his new friend stop in front of a house that is painted to resemble a circus tent. This must be where Bobble lives. He invites the man in, and they both enter the house. Inside, Bobble motions for the man to sit while he prepares some refreshments. The girl watches as Bobble moves to the kitchen. There, he begins sharpening knives as he explains directly to the camera the best way to prepare meat, the way the skin must carefully be removed from the flesh, and how the bones should be saved for future soup stocks. The girl watches with fascination as Bobble teaches his special lesson. Maybe this is a good show after all. Maybe this is her new favorite show. The girl gets up, her brother still asleep, and heads to the kitchen. She pulls out a drawer to help her reach the counter where the knife block is located, and pulls out the meat cleaver. She looks at it gleaming in the light, entranced by its sharp, shiny edge. The girl returns to the living room and gets up onto the couch next to her sleeping brother. She watches as Bobble steps away from his pot of red, boiling meat and looks right into the camera. The girl stands up and holds up the meat cleaver. Bobble walks towards the camera with fascination in his eyes, as if he can see through the screen and is watching the girl. She slowly raises the knife above her head as Bobble starts whispering, "Come on, do it," licking his lips in anticipation. The girl pauses for a second, looks at her sleeping brother one more time, and brings the cleaver down. Hi, I'm DrBob, and this is SCP-993, also known as Bobble the Clown. But first, there's something I need from you. I need your help to spread the word about some of the lesser-known anomalies in the SCP Foundation's archives, and the best way you can help is to subscribe, turn on notifications, and then go tell your friends to do the same. This will help me bring you more and more SCP videos. Now, back to our file. SCP-993 is the designation the SCP Foundation has given to a children's television program entitled Bobble the Clown. At first glance, the Bobble the Clown show appears to be a standard children's educational cartoon, with bright colors, a mascot, and a rote formula that involves the titular character of Bobble the Clown learning a new skill or engaging in a new activity. The program appears to have no recurring supporting cast, with Bobble being the only character who returns to each episode. The settings usually change between episodes as well, with Bobble often being seen in a new or unique location. Despite appearing as a show made for children, the anomalous properties exhibited by this strange television program make themselves apparent almost immediately. First, anyone older than the age of 10 who watches the show will immediately fall unconscious as soon as it begins, and will remain in a comatose state until the program ends. Upon waking, they will report having felt a painful, stabbing headache just prior to falling unconscious. The show's most disturbing property, though, is what has been described by those under the age of 10 who are able to view the program. They report seeing Bobble the Clown teach lessons similar to the way many children's shows extol the virtues of good hygiene or going to bed on time. But with Bobble, the lessons are quite different. Topics that Bobble has presented lessons on and encouraged children to try have included torture, murder, and even cannibalism. As the subject watches, the lessons appear to become ingrained in their minds, and repeated exposure to the show has resulted in permanent effects that resemble symptoms of psychosis and schizophrenia. Documented episodes of Bobble the Clown have included Bobble in the Big City, in which Bobble appears in a large United States city reminiscent of New York, and instructs the viewer on various ways to avoid detection when lighting fires with common resources like mosquito coils. The episode ends with Bobble setting fire to a large building before he exits the screen. The camera continues to stay locked on the burning building for several more minutes as the sound of screams can be heard. In another titled Bobble's Sneaky Saturday, Bobble is again in a major city, this time one that looks similar to London, England, with the Elizabeth Tower containing Big Ben visible in the background. In this episode, Bobble is shown to be quietly following a woman as she walks into her home. Once she arrives, Bobble attacks her with a large butcher knife, before giving the audience tips on how to remain unnoticed in crowded places. Bobble Gets the Truth finds the clown in a prisoner of war camp, where Bobble is shown torturing a captured soldier as he asks him nonsensical questions that the soldier cannot possibly answer. This continues until the prisoner dies, after which Bobble details methods for inflicting painful but non-lethal injuries. Bobble Hates You is one of the most unnerving of the documented episodes, and consists of Bobble sitting alone in a blank room, silently and angrily staring at the viewer for a full 30 minutes. But the strangest of all is from an episode title filled with expletives, in which Bobble appears to be in a Foundation Secure Site video archive room, the same one where recordings of Bobble the Clown are stored. In this episode, a rage-filled Bobble describes methods for breaching several SCP's containment. He then gives personal details about the researchers assigned to these SCPs, including their daily routines, before offering several potential ways to murder them. An interesting detail about this episode: at one point, an animated depiction of a particular SCP Foundation researcher is seen to walk past Bobble. A clock on the wall shows the time, and this same researcher later confirmed that they did, in fact, walk through the video archive at this exact time, but had no recollection of seeing an animated clown filming a television program in the room when they did so. Episodes of Bobble the Clown continue to be broadcast from an unknown source, but future episodes are to be intercepted using Protocol Upsilon Beta 3 to prevent them from being seen by the public. All broadcasts are recorded for the Foundation's archives, and in order to perform research on the anomaly, subjects under the age of 10 must be used to view them. Once the viewers have described what takes place in the episode, they are then to immediately be administered Class A amnestics. Despite the danger these episodes pose to those who view them, since they are able to be reliably blocked from public broadcast, SCP-993 has been classified as safe, and for now, Bobble the Clown appears to be contained as well as it can be. It's late on a Saturday night in New York City, 11:55 p.m. to be exact. A man is running towards the subway station on 59th Street. He's just gotten off from work at the restaurant where he waits tables, and he's in a hurry to get home and spend some time with his girlfriend. As he approaches the station, he notices something strange. Someone has placed a wooden barrier in front of the entrance. The man has never seen something like this before, but he hasn't lived in Brooklyn very long. Everything about the station looks normal behind the barrier, and he's in a hurry. He doesn't want to have to go several blocks to the next station, so he hops the barrier. What's the worst that could happen? As the man walks onto the train platform, he starts to second-guess his decision. The platform is empty, and come to think of it, he hasn't seen anyone in the station at all. Maybe he did make a mistake. Maybe the station really is closed for repairs. He turns around to leave, but just as he does, he hears a train. Good. Everything is normal. He checks his watch. 11:57 p.m. on the dot. The train comes to a stop, and its doors slide open. It looks a little older than the trains he usually rides, but it appears to be in perfect shape, and it's going the direction of his home, so he steps on board. Just like the station and the platform, there's no one else on the train. Strange. But he's ridden nearly empty trains before, especially late at night, though usually at this time on a Saturday there's at least a few people on board. Just then, he hears something in the station. He turns to see someone running down the platform crying out. "Stop! Stop!" the man in the Mass Transit Authority vest cries, dropping what looks to be his dinner on the platform as he runs. While the MTA worker is still several feet away, the doors snap shut and the train begins to move. The MTA worker cries out again to stop, but he knows there's no point. He watches as the train heads down the tracks and disappears into the darkness. With a sigh, he takes out a walkie-talkie and it squawks to life. "We've lost another one," he says. "Hi, I'm DrBob, and this is SCP-052, also known as the Time-Traveling Train. SCP-052 appears to be a standard-looking Type R4 New York City subway train. Official city records state that the train was built in 1932 and decommissioned for scrap in 1975. Despite the fact that it should no longer exist, SCP-052 continues to appear on the Uptown AD track at the 59th Street and 8th Avenue station at exactly 11:57 p.m. every Saturday night. The train appears to be in perfect condition, just the same as when it was built over 80 years ago, and it is marked as an A train. Each Saturday, the train arrives at exactly the same time, opens its doors to accept or discharge passengers for precisely 5 minutes, then closes its doors and disappears until the next week. Where did the train come from? And where does it go in between the weekly appearances? These are questions the SCP Foundation is trying to answer. But perhaps the most frightening aspect of SCP-052 is that once you get on the train, there's no guarantee of ever getting off. Sadly, the majority of subjects that have been observed boarding SCP-052 have not been heard from again. The rare few that have been recovered claim to have boarded the train on various dates, ranging from 1976 all the way to the year 2204, with the latter claiming he thought he was boarding a special 300th anniversary train. Thus far, none of the recovered passengers have reported any memories or knowledge of their time on board the train between entering and exiting. Any passengers spotted disembarking from SCP-052 are to be immediately brought to Site 21 for questioning to determine their origin and assess whether they pose any threat to the current time stream. The Foundation has had great success administering Class A amnestics to passengers who arrived from the past and reintegrating them into society. But any passenger who is identified as being from the future must be held indefinitely to prevent potential disruptions to this reality's time stream, per Order 69-A1 from O5 Council Member 05-9. There are currently 26 recovered passengers being held at Site 21 who fit this description, and there are not yet any procedures in place that would allow for their safe release into modern society, nor has there been any workable theories for how to return them to their original home time. Despite the protocols in place to prevent public access, some passengers from the present have still managed to accidentally board SCP-052, and subjects from other times continue to appear. Following interviews, it's been discovered that some of these subjects arrived from alternate timelines and realities. This raises the question of whether it is possible for SCP-052 to appear in other times and places, which may require the containment of additional locations, and reports of any suspicious activity involving unscheduled trains are being monitored and investigated around the world. Following its initial discovery, several tests were attempted in order to better understand the anomalous train and what may be happening when it is no longer visible. The first test took place on May 31st, 2009. An agent was told to simply board the train. They did as requested, and have yet to be recovered as of the present date. A second test took place a week later on June 6th. This agent too was never recovered, though reports indicate that he may have returned to our timeline in 1980, at which point he was killed in a confrontation that has since been classified. A third test was conducted the next week on June 13th. Once again, the agent was told to board the train and did so. This time, though, the agent returned. Just 2 weeks later, on June 27th, the agent stepped back off the train, with his hands appearing to have been surgically removed. A note had been placed in his pocket that had the simple message, "Send no more," written on it. The agent claims not to remember any of his experiences on the train over the 2 weeks he was gone, or what may have happened to his hands. Following this third test, O5 Command issued orders stopping the use of Foundation agents as passengers on SCP-052. D-Class, due to their disposable nature as convicted felons and death row inmates, were considered as potential replacements for the agents in the exploration of SCP-052, but the risk of releasing them into the past or the future was determined to be too great. Other than the agent who knowingly boarded the train, several other notable passengers have been recovered. One case involved the recovery of a woman who entered the train on July 14, 2012, but was recovered 4 years earlier, on March 8, 2008. She entered the train while on her way home from the theater, and was surprised to learn she traveled 4 years into the past. Because another version of her existed at the time she was recovered, she was held to prevent unwanted temporal effects. Another subject was recovered in 2008 who claimed to be from the year 1976. Although there was nothing physically wrong with him and no risk of time stream disruptions, Foundation psychiatrists recommended that he be held indefinitely, as 32 years was believed to be too long a period of time to successfully reintegrate into society. Perhaps the most interesting recovery was of a man claiming to be a Level 4 supervisor from the SCP Federation, who boarded the train in December of 2124. He said that he had been administered a Class A amnestic prior to boarding, and remembered nothing until his recovery in 2010. While the agent can clearly never be released into society, O5 Command has approved the sharing of classified information about various anomalies, in the hopes that he can provide additional information on possible containment procedures. Because SCP-052 has so far proven impossible to stop or remove from the New York City subway system, it has been classified as Euclid. But its predictable nature means that the Foundation is usually able to prevent the public from encountering it. The 59th Street ABCD station is closed to the public between 11 p.m. on Saturday night and 1 a.m. on Sunday morning, under the pretext of track maintenance. Any passengers seen leaving SCP-052 must be taken to Site 21 for debriefing and processing, and members of the public who simply see SCP-052 may be released after the administration of a Class B amnestic. As for what happens to most of the passengers who board SCP-052 and are never seen from again, we simply don't know.
It's not every day that the SCP Foundation opens a brand new site and appoints a new site director, but today is one of those days. Work is about to begin at Site 41, and a respected senior researcher has been appointed director of the brand new site. He hasn't been told much about it yet, but he knows a few things for certain. Some sort of new, highly volatile anomaly was discovered, a site was constructed around it, and his many years of loyalty to the organization have finally been rewarded with a promotion. As he takes his morning shower, his mind races, turning over the possibilities that this new chapter might bring. Is he up to the potential challenges? Just how dangerous is this new anomaly? What could possibly necessitate the building of a brand new site just to contain it? Whatever it is, these years of securing, containing, and protecting have prepared him. He's seen bizarre creatures, cursed places, and objects that defy the laws of physics. Whatever awaits him in his new position, he can handle it. He rinses the shampoo from his hair, letting his jitters flow down the drain with it, and switches off the water. He climbs out of the shower and turns to the foggy mirror. He sweeps a palm across the glass and meets his reflection's eyes. His serious expression catches him off guard, and he can't help but let his mind wander back to someone else who looked at him that way, with those stony gray eyes, such a long time ago. He and his brother had never gotten along. Though they shared the same face, the same hair, and the same eyes, they couldn't have been more different. He was the screw-up, the one who couldn't focus in class and was always bumbling through life like a bull in a china shop. His brother was the golden boy, the star student who could do no wrong. As the boys got older, he tried to climb out of his brother's shadow and tried to live up to their parents' expectations, but anything he did, his brother could do better. He got into a great college, his brother got into Harvard. He got a job, his brother got a more impressive one. He got a Honda, his brother got a Mercedes. He fell in love with a girl, and his brother married her. It seemed like he would never stand on his own, never be anything but the lesser version of a perfect man, a nasty little homunculus who just happened to be wearing the graven image of something greater than himself. On the night of his brother's wedding, the festering resentment had finally come to the surface. He remembers the night in bits and pieces, a harsh word, a fifth drink, a broken champagne glass. His brother said something that went too far, cut too deep. Without thinking, he shoved him just a bit too hard. He watched his brother fall, watched his head hit the corner of the table, and then he was still. Silent. He thought about turning himself in, but then another thought crossed his mind. Why ruin two futures at once? His brother was gone. There was no coming back from that. Should he really spend the rest of his life in prison over a tragic mistake? It didn't seem fair. Instead, he planned. For once, he was grateful for the similarities between him and his brother, their handwriting, for instance. He forged a note to his brother's new bride, telling her that he couldn't take the pressures of his life anymore. He was leaving, fleeing to Europe to start a new life, with a new name, and leaving all of his old ties behind. Then he packed his brother's body, the one that looked so much like his own, into a suitcase. He drove out into the woods, to a place they had once gotten lost as children, and he buried it so deep no one would ever find it. He'd never forget how he felt that night, laboring away in the dark forest, face an unpleasant mess of snot and tears, the end of his shovel piercing the dirt again and again, until he'd made a big enough hole to consign the case that now held his own brother's mangled body. Every shovelful of dirt that he piled back on, hiding his sin, felt heavier than the last. What had he done? What the hell had he done? But by the time the grim deed was concluded, rationalizations had smoothed out the hard edges of his crime. There were a million reasons this was okay. This was justified. It was an accident, of course, that much was clear. But didn't his brother also have it coming, for flaunting his perfect life in his face for all these years? And who was the worthless chunk of dead meat now? The scales were balanced once more. No one would ever know what he did. No one but him, in those moments where he could see his brother in the mirror, reminding him of his greatest shame, no matter how hard he tried to forget. But that moment is long gone. He's back in the present now, grounding himself with a splash of cold water on his face. He shakes off the memories and dresses for the day. It's time to get to work. When he arrives at the facility, he's shocked by what he sees. It's a castle, grand and imposing, even if the years have not been particularly kind to it. The Foundation did not build this structure, though they've set up shop inside now. His reminiscence has made him late, and he hasn't even had a chance to look over his paperwork yet. But when you're a site director, what does it even matter if you're a little late? You're the boss, the head honcho. The party doesn't start until you walk in. Just the thought of it is enough to make his chest swell with pride. He will have to ask someone to fill him in, an eager subordinate who won't mind going over the basics of the new facility and what they are here to study. Like clockwork, a young assistant researcher scurries up to him, holding a clipboard and practically vibrating with energy. She clearly hasn't been working here long. There's still light behind her eyes. He thinks to himself, "The things you see here will snuff that out soon enough, my dear." The assistant researcher leads him inside the castle, its guts ripped out and replaced with sleek modern technology. A stone staircase has been swapped out for a row of elevators, marble busts exchanged for security cameras and monitors. They enter one of the elevators, and the assistant presses the button for the lowest possible floor. They are going deep into the bowels of the castle, into the belly of the great beast. With a ding, the doors open, and they step out. The air down here has a peculiar smell, musty and dull, with a sharp metallic tang of dried blood. Along the wall, he can see a row of prison cells, 8 of them to be precise, all shut tight. They're rusted and old. They've been here for quite some time. The Foundation didn't put these here. Of course, he realizes with a sinking feeling in his stomach that he can't quite explain, these cells themselves must be the anomaly he's here to supervise the containment of. He should have read the file before arriving, shouldn't have let himself get distracted. Then he would know what he's walking into. "So here we are," the assistant chirps, startling the man. He had almost forgotten she was standing next to him. "Shall I give you the grand tour?" She won't last long here with such a chipper attitude, he thinks, but he nods just the same. She walks ahead of him, referring dutifully to her clipboard as she goes. "This is the first cell. As you can see, all of them are currently inactive. We'll be performing some tests later, though, and you'll hopefully get to see them in action. It's really something." She continues walking to the second cell. "There are a lot of potential applications for this anomaly that, once we understand it, could be incredibly promising." He's only half listening as he trails behind her. As they near the third cell, the assistant glances back at him. "I really look forward to working with you, sir. I've heard such great things." He opens his mouth to brush off the praise, to feign humility for her sake, when a sound startles him. The grind of metal against metal, the screech of a long disused door. The third cell is opening on its own. The assistant flips through her notes, growing pale. "This isn't supposed to happen. This shouldn't be happening," she stammers, but he barely hears a word. He's staring, transfixed, at the darkness within. There's a rattling sound, like chains being dragged across a stone floor. What is about to be unleashed from this prison? He braces himself, remembering all of the near-death experiences he's faced down in the past. Nothing could prepare him for what finally appears. A pair of iron shackles, attached to lengths of chain, shoot out from the shadows, headed right for him. A shackle clamps suddenly around each of his wrists, the cold metal tight enough to cut off the circulation, digging into his skin. Then, an invisible force on the other end of the chains begins to pull. He fights it, the shackles cutting into him as the assistant screams for help, but his efforts are futile. Whatever wants to pull him closer, whatever is trying to lock him away, it's far stronger than he could ever be. The chains yank him inside the cell, and the door slides shut behind him with a crash. He thinks for just a moment that he can see his brother, laughing. Then, he's gone, leaving only an empty cell and a traumatized assistant behind. Sometimes the sins of the past come back to haunt you, and unfortunately for this particular man, there's no statute of limitations when it comes to SCP-567, or The Dungeon. In case the nickname wasn't clear enough, The Dungeon is not the sort of place you would ever want to be confined. SCP-567 is a series of 8 cells located beneath Foundation Site-41. Each cell has a designated number from SCP-567-1 through SCP-567-8. Most of the time, the cells are inactive and indistinguishable from any ordinary prison cell. However, when someone that one of the cells deems to be guilty of a specific offense enters their proximity, the anomalous properties of SCP-567 become abundantly clear. Each cell punishes a specific horrible act. SCP-567-1 targets those who have committed theft. 2 punishes sexual violence. 3 and 4 punish various types of murder. 5 punishes adultery. 6 and 7. I'm afraid I can't quite make out what it says. Someone appears to have deliberately scratched out the text in the file. As for SCP-567-8, whatever wrongdoing it chooses to penalize is still unknown, and it is never activated in the entire time the Foundation has known of it. Every other cell is completely empty, but 567-8 contains one single, antique wooden chair in the center of the room, nailed to the floor. The purpose of this chair is unclear. When an individual who has committed one of the aforementioned acts comes within 2.5 meters of their corresponding cell door, a pair of shackles will shoot out from within the cell, seemingly materializing out of nowhere. These shackles will then lock around the individual's wrists and drag them inside, at which point the cell door will slide itself closed and lock, and the prisoner and shackles will disappear. Multiple researchers have compared this anomaly, both in its function and its methodology, to SCP-1002, or Demisers, and SCP-2701, or True Solitary Confinement, which I have discussed at length before. Since the Foundation first contained SCP-567, only 2 prisoners have ever reappeared after being taken. 68 hours after he was first placed inside SCP-567-3, D903912 escaped and was found collapsed on the ground just outside Site-41. He died only moments after reappearing, before any medical intervention could take place. An autopsy showed severe injuries, including lacerations, internal bleeding, and burns on his wrists and ankles. The second subject to ever return was D937122, who was found 157 months after being locked in SCP-567-6. In spite of her injuries, which included head trauma, missing fingers, and the same burn marks on her wrists and ankles, this subject had a great deal more energy and attempted to attack the Foundation personnel that found her. She was subdued by several guards, restrained, and interrogated by an unnamed agent. Thankfully, an audio log of the interview was included in the file, giving us a sense of what transpired. "Please state your name," the agent began. D937122 did not respond. "Please state your name," they repeated. Again, no response. The agent sighed heavily and changed tactics. "Look, I'm very sorry and I want to help you, but we can't give you medical attention unless you cooperate with us, so please state your name for the record." At long last, the D-Class responded with an intense outburst. "My name? You want to know my name? Screw my name! There is no name, there is no anything! But there is. I escaped. I got the medal off, none of the..." And here the audio was corrupted to the point where I couldn't understand what was being said. After the interference clears, D937122 could be heard shouting, "I should be free! Let me go!" A struggle followed as she attempted to escape custody. The agent then replied, in an attempt to calm the D-Class down, "I apologize, but now we have the opportunity to..." "Screw your opportunity! There is no opportunity! There's only escape! You called me a monster. Maybe I am one. But the nightmares, they... She briefly broke down into unintelligible mumbling before returning to normal speech. Compared to their crimes, I've done nothing wrong. Nothing at all. I haven't done anything wrong. Nothing. At this point, the D-Class became inconsolable, all coherent speech dissolving into sobs. The agent attempted to calm her down, but she remained hysterical. After several moments of sobbing, the D-Class began to gasp, as if she was having difficulty breathing. She clutched her chest and began to go into apparent cardiac arrest. The agent attempted to administer CPR, but it was unsuccessful, and after a few minutes, she was dead. An autopsy was ordered following the interview, which revealed the apparent cause of her death. Her body was covered with tiny punctures, and a toxicology report revealed an unknown poison in her bloodstream. Though only 2 people have ever emerged from SCP-567, they were not the only organic life forms to break out of the dungeon's cells. Every so often, the doors of a cell will open, and an entity will emerge. These creatures are given the designation SCP-567-9, and they are always aggressive. They do not usually match the description of any existing animal, instead appearing to be some sort of undiscovered creature. Once an instance of SCP-567-9 has escaped its cell, it will attempt to leave the dungeon and attack anything that gets in its way. The first instance of SCP-567-9 observed by the Foundation was a 4-limbed creature approximately 2 meters in length. It walked on all 4s, but had human-like hands on its front limbs, complete with opposable thumbs and sophisticated enough mobility to operate machinery. It was highly intelligent and used this intellect to take out 14 Foundation operatives before it was contained. The details of SCP-567-9-2 have been stricken from any official documentation. The only thing I can surmise from the file is that 9 personnel were killed after it appeared, and one of the agents that helped contain it requested and received psychological counseling for what they experienced during the process. So whatever it was he encountered, it wasn't anything good. During a round of routine testing with SCP-567-4, while the cell door was open, an instance of SCP-567-9 appeared, attacking and killing the researcher leading the tests. The entity was not contained, but after 7 casualties, was lured back towards its original cell. At this point, the cell deployed its shackles, and the creature was pulled back inside. The most recent instance of SCP-567-9 emerged when the door to SCP-567-7 opened and closed spontaneously. This was spotted on the CCTV footage, but none of the security monitoring the video could see anything leaving the cell. 2 weeks later, an agent assigned to the dungeon was found dead in his home, still in bed. The circumstances of his death were virtually identical to those attributed to SCP-966, a nightmarish species of creature known as the Sleep Killer, which I've discussed here on the channel before. When the escaped entity was found in Site-41, it was found to resemble an instance of SCP-966, with only a few variations. It was successfully contained, and the on-site security cameras were upgraded to prepare for future anomalies like it. Though many specifics are missing from the file, including the exact appearances of the creature that emerged from the cells, I have deduced one thing. Wherever SCP-567 is transporting those it deems guilty, it is a prison for monsters of all species. Humans are not the only ones it wishes to hold accountable for their crimes. As I was reading about the dungeon and the various tests involving it, a rather morbid question came to mind. What would happen to a test subject guilty of more than one crime? Which cell would claim them? Well, fortunately for my curiosity, and unfortunately for him, one D-Class found out. D-834200 was used as a human test subject during initial studies of SCP-567. He was placed in front of SCP-567-6 and 7. Almost instantly, the cells rattled open, and the shackles shot out to grab him. His left wrist and ankle were ensnared by Cell 6, and his right were trapped by Cell 7. Then, he was pulled into both cells. Well, part of him was at least. How can I best explain his fate without causing too much distress? Have you ever held a wishbone in your hand at a family dinner while your sibling or cousin held the other side, and you both pulled until it broke? It was a bit like that. SCP Foundation Site-41 has been established in the abandoned castle that contains SCP-567 in order to prevent any civilians from coming across it. The entrance to the dungeon is kept sealed at all times, and the doors to each of the cells are monitored via CCTV. If any door is opened without authorization, Task Force Delta 9, also known as HAX, will be deployed to contain the resulting instance of SCP-567-9. If, for any reason, it cannot be contained, the task force is permitted to terminate. In order to prevent the unnecessary loss of any personnel, All applicants to join Task Force Delta 9 must have a clean criminal record, have never committed a crime at all, even at the behest of the Foundation, have a strong dedication to the law, and show loyalty to the social contract and the feelings of others. A robust moral compass is considered a vital qualification to work near SCP-567, lest they become simply one more victim added to its long list of tortured penitents. The Foundation has encountered many anomalies over the years that could pose a danger to the organization itself. SCP-567 is no exception. Untold numbers of Foundation operatives have committed terrible acts in the service of the greater good. They have lied, stolen, and even killed in order to protect and contain the secrets locked away in files and behind heavily guarded walls. A great deal of caution should be used when dealing with the dungeon, no matter how justified a person thinks their past sins might be. After all, there's no chance to plead your innocence, and the very prison that plans to hold you is also the judge, jury, and executioner.
As you can clearly see, this completely throws our entire understanding of our place in the universe into complete disarray, says the astronomer as he excitedly makes his case to a panel of aged and supposedly learned advisors. My observations leave no doubt that everything we previously suspected to be the absolute truth is wrong. The panel of advisors murmur and lean close together to whisper to each other. The astronomer can't hear what they are saying, but the passion and joy that he felt as he explained his findings to the room is quickly draining from his face. He can see the men mouthing the words "no" and "lies" as they make disapproving gestures. But how could this be? Had they not understood what he was showing them? Maybe he didn't explain things in a way that they could comprehend. Here he was, the greatest scientist of his day, presenting hard facts, backed up by rigorous observations, and this was their reaction. The group of advisors finish conferring and grow quiet. The chief advisor clears his throat, and everyone in the room waits for him to speak. Royal Scientist, this panel has examined your findings and listened to your theories. The advisor can't help but sneer at the word, and has decided that the ideas you present are not only incorrect, but dangerous. The astronomer can't believe what he's hearing. This panel, acting under the authority of the king, has charged you with the crime of heresy. The astronomer is shocked. He steps towards the panel to plead with them, but he's stopped by a pair of guards who grab him by the arms. Stop! Stop! I'm a man of science. I only presented you with the truth. But no one seems moved by his appeals. The panel watches as the astronomer is dragged from the room, kicking and fighting, still insisting on his innocence. The screams echo through the dungeon as the torturer cranks another notch on the rack, stretching the astronomer's body just a little bit more. He has no idea how long this has been going on. Hours, days. The pain has been excruciating and without end. He closes his eyes, trying to escape the torture by retreating into his mind, but he's slapped on the face and brought back to the reality of his situation. Standing in front of him is the chief advisor, the same one who sentenced him to this inhumane treatment. You can end this any time you like. Simply recant your statements and admit you were mistaken, and all of this will be over. The astronomer is unsure if by over he means that they will release him or simply kill him to put him out of his misery. But it didn't matter which the right answer was. He couldn't lie. The astronomer knew the truth, and no amount of pain, no matter how intense or how long they submitted him to it, would change what he now knew. Disappointed with the astronomer's steadfastness, the advisor signals to the torturer, who cranks the rack again, stretching the astronomer's body to the point where he feels like his bones might pop out of their sockets. "Recant!" the advisor screams, repeating the word over and over, growing louder as the astronomer's own cries increase from the pain caused by the torturer cranking the rack more and more. The astronomer closes his eyes again. He's certain this will be the end of him soon, and that he will die with the great secret he's learned without getting the chance to share it with the world. But suddenly, the astronomer notices that the room has gone quiet. The advisor is no longer yelling, and the torturer has stopped operating the machine. The astronomer opens his eyes to see the advisor and the torturer both in a deep bow. His gaze continues up and he sees the king himself standing in front of him. The king stares at the astronomer for what feels like an eternity before simply asking, "Is it true?" The astronomer, limbs still stretched on the rack, manages a nod, and with his remaining strength whispers, "It's true." The king motions with his hand to the torturer, who stands up and begins releasing the astronomer from his constraints. The advisor protests, "But my lord, this man—" But he's cut off by the king with a stern look and retreats back into his deep bow. "Show me," the king says as the astronomer stands, rubbing his sore shoulders where the tendons and muscles were stretched far beyond their natural limits. The astronomer opens the door to his laboratory and gestures for the king to enter. The room is a mess of papers and scientific equipment, a reflection of the busy and scattered mind of the man who works here. The king is immediately drawn to a table with a large scroll. He spreads it across the table and examines it, but his face betrays no hint of what he is thinking. "Is this what you showed my advisors?" The astronomer nods yes. "Would you like to see for yourself?" The astronomer motions to the window, where a brass tube is attached to a tripod. The king approaches the device, but doesn't know how it works. The astronomer demonstrates by looking through the eyepiece. He moves it slightly, making small adjustments to make sure it is just right for the king. "There, now look." The king bends over to peer through the telescope, and a look of shock comes over his face. What he sees is the most incredible thing he has ever witnessed. There, far above up in the sky, unable to be seen by the naked eye, is a man, and he is staring back at him. The planet that this played out on was not Earth, but a bizarre place that is one of the strangest anomalies in the entire SCP Foundation archive. This is SCP-007, also known as Abdominal Planet. SCP-007 is a spherical object located in the abdomen of a young man, or rather in the space where his abdomen should be, since most of the muscle, skin, and organs that should be present simply are not. The subject, a Caucasian male in his mid-20s of average height and build, does not appear affected by the large missing portion of his body, and has not reported experiencing pain or discomfort of any kind. In the space where his abdominal muscles and organs should be is a small globe composed of soil and water. This sphere, which measures roughly 60 centimeters in diameter, resembles the planet Earth, though the arrangement of the continents does not match any known configuration from our own planet's history. The tiny planet has its own weather patterns, and even a small, but still detectable, gravitational pull. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of SCP-007 is that it appears to be inhabited. Microscopic organisms that would correspond to roughly the scale of human beings on Earth have been observed on the surface of the planet. So far, 2 distinct intelligent species have been identified, both of whom seem to possess a technological level similar to the 15th century on Earth. It is unknown if the inhabitants of the Abdominal Planet are aware of the world outside of their planet, and communication attempts with the planet's occupants have been placed on hold by senior Foundation officials, pending further study into what effect an exchange may have on them or us. The human subject within which SCP-007 is located provided the Foundation with a name that he claims to be his, but no records of such a person existing have yet to be located. Upon being questioned about the lack of records, he willfully offered both a social security and driver's license number, but when they were checked against current records, neither had yet to be assigned by the US government. And the mysteries surrounding this man don't stop there. The subject has not shown the need for either food or water, and it is unknown what energy source his body continues to operate on without nutrition. He is capable of both eating and drinking, though, despite the large missing section of his stomach, but it is still not known what happens to the substances after he swallows them. The man has above-average intelligence and scored a 128 on an administered IQ test. He also generally appears friendly and amiable, and expresses only a passing curiosity about the planet located within his abdomen and how it came to be there. When asked about the origins of the planet, he replied very matter-of-factly that, "I just woke up one day and there it was. I don't have any idea how it got there." Due to the poorly understood nature of SCP-007, it has been classified as Euclid, and the small planet and the man it resides in are contained in a sealed, comfortably furnished 10 by 10 meter room that the subject is not allowed to leave. The subject is to be monitored closely by Foundation staff and has a weekly chess game with one of the attending doctors, which also serves as an opportunity to evaluate his mental health. So far, he has not shown any signs of mental illness or violent tendencies, and seems to be quite content. In general, he appears happy with his restricted living situation inside the Foundation facility and has made no attempts to escape. The subject has made multiple requests for access to a computer with an internet connection, but due to potential security risks, this request has thus far been denied.
The babysitter sits in the darkened house, lit only by the soft glow of the television screen. Now that the little girl she's been watching has gone to bed, the once warm, lively home is eerily quiet and still. With nervous fingers that need to keep moving, she flips through the channels, past competitive cooking shows, a black and white film, a documentary about penguins. Nothing grabs her attention like she needs. None of it is an adequate distraction from the anxious prickle on the back of her neck, the way her palms are growing clammy and slick with sweat. This is the worst part of every babysitting gig. Her friends would disagree. They all say that late at night, after the kids have gone to bed and before the parents get home from their evening out, is the very best part of the job. This is the perfect little pocket of peace when they can invite their boyfriends over or sneak an extra snack from the pantry. But as her eyes watch the flickering screen, the shopping channel, the late-night talk shows, all she can really think about is just how alone she is right now. It's a safe neighborhood. She knows that in the rational part of her mind, but she can't help but feel her pulse spike every time headlights illuminate the yard outside the window. She can't stop her imagination from running wild with images of machete-wielding killers watching through the glass. Why, she has to wonder as her chest tightens with aimless fear, are there so many scary stories about babysitters? It's always the babysitter getting a phone call from a menacing stranger, rasping in a deep voice, "Have you checked the children?" The babysitter is the one watching the creepy clown statue in the corner of the room all night, until she calls the family to ask them a question about it, and hears those terrifying words, "We don't have a clown statue." It's inescapable. From mask-wielding slashers and escaped lunatics, to the soft voices of ghostly children, and the maniacal cackling of the demon in the closet or under the bed, waiting for new prey. In a horror story, the babysitter always has a target on their back. She shivers. Those are campfire stories, she reminds herself. Just because a babysitter is an easy target for a fictional killer, that doesn't mean anything bad is going to happen to her here tonight. The kid is sleeping soundly, the parents will be home soon, and there's leftover macaroni and cheese in the kitchen. Everything is fine. Better than fine, in fact. She takes a deep breath in and out. Another breath in, but just before she can let it out and relax, there's a sound, a rustling at the front door. She tenses, holding her breath. Maybe it's a raccoon digging through the trash. Maybe it's just the wind. But then she hears it, undeniable and chilling, the sound of footsteps pacing back and forth outside. She grips the arm of the couch so hard her knuckles go white, refusing to move a muscle. Should she turn the lights on? No, she can't. Then they'll know someone is home. Whoever is lurking outside the front door right now is deliberately deciding not to knock, and she doesn't want them to know she's here. Suddenly, a thought occurs to her, one that makes her stomach drop. Did she remember to lock the door? The squeak of metal almost makes her cry out in shock, but she covers her mouth at the last second. The mail slot on the front door slides open. Something small pushes through and lands on the floor with a soft thud. Then, as quickly as they came, she hears the footsteps retreat, and she is alone in the dark again. She waits and waits and waits, but there's no other sounds. Whoever was there, they're gone now. But what did they leave behind? The babysitter tiptoes over to the door, where she finds the strange delivery sitting on the floor. It's a small plastic case containing a single unmarked DVD. She flips it over, looking for any kind of writing to indicate what it might be. But there's nothing on it at all. She couldn't explain what exactly made her walk to the family's television and slide the disc into the DVD player before sitting down to watch whatever it might hold. Perhaps it was morbid curiosity or that nagging, all-consuming desire for distraction. Whatever it was, she picked up the remote control, pressed play, and readied herself for what might come next. The screen comes to life with the image of a young woman in a short white dress and a pair of high heels, running down a narrow hallway. Her mouth is wide open, her face twisted into a blood-curdling scream, but there is no sound coming from the TV. The babysitter points the remote at the television and turns up the volume, but nothing comes out of the speakers, just silence. Somehow, without sound, the scream looks more horrifying. It's stiff, unnatural. As the woman on TV runs, a dark figure rounds the corner behind her, pursuing her. The babysitter gasps involuntarily as the figure comes further into the frame. The thing chasing her is a massive doll, 3 times the height of the woman in the white dress. It wears a dress of its own, a garish, lacy thing with puffed sleeves and a long, stuffed skirt.
The doll shouldn't be able to move the way it does. Everything about it makes it seem like it was meant to stay still. Its stiff wooden arms, its splayed frozen fingers, the fixed, insipid smile, its unblinking beady eyes that tore into its victim's back. Still, the doll moves, its legs and arms pumping, its head turning from side to side to follow the woman's path. The hallway turns into a music room, with a grand piano and a wooden bench that the woman knocks on its side as she barrels past. The doll is relentless in its pursuit, following at a steady, almost casual pace, as if it knows that the human girl will grow tired, weak, and vulnerable, while it could keep up this chase forever. The babysitter can't look away, can't shut her eyes. She wants to so badly, but she has to see what happens to the poor girl, what that unfeeling face on the doll will look like when it catches its prey. She watches for a while, she can't quite tell how long, and then the screen cuts to black. The babysitter sighs, ready to eject the DVD and throw it in the trash, but then it comes back to life. There she is, the woman in white, lying on the floor now in a crumpled, motionless heap. The camera trails over her body, from her feet, up her legs, bent at odd angles, past her broken arms, and finally, to her face. There, the beady black eyes stare out of the screen. The woman's head is gone, replaced with the head of the doll. Then the screen goes black again. It's over. The babysitter reaches a hand to her face and feels moisture on her cheeks. When did she start crying? She wasn't sure, but now she couldn't stop. It was all so horrible. People being chased by giant dolls, being killed by dolls, turning into dolls. She feels her grasp of what was real, of what was flesh and blood, and what was cold, cruel porcelain growing weaker. She tries to calm her racing heart, to recall a soothing song her mother used to sing, but those old memories feel fuzzy like a half-remembered dream. "Hello?" A quiet voice jolts the babysitter from her thoughts. There, on the stairs, is the little girl, the one she's supposed to be watching, clad in her pink bunny pajamas and clutching her favorite doll. "I had a bad dream." The babysitter looks from the little girl to the doll in her hand. The two had the same wide blue eyes, the same perfect ringlet curls, the same rosy cheeks, the almost artificial sheen of her skin, the way she walks, talks. How had she not seen it before? "It's okay, I'm here," she says. "Do you want a glass of water?" The girl nods. The babysitter could have sworn the doll nodded too. What could she do? Could she say something? No, that wouldn't work. The girl was too young to understand. She would have to find another way. She makes her way to the kitchen, and as she turns on the tap to fill a cup with water, her eyes fall on the butcher's block, on the meat cleaver, waiting there like a volunteer. She wraps her hand around its handle and makes her way back to the living room. A half hour later, the parents come home, expecting to find their daughter in bed and their trusty babysitter sitting on the couch like she always was. Instead, they find a nightmare. They turn on the lights to reveal splatters of blood soaking their once pristine white carpet, a streak of thick red gore leading them down the hall. They can smell a metallic rot that belonged in a butcher's shop. When they reach the kitchen, all they can do is scream. The mother turns away in horror from what she saw in the kitchen to find the babysitter standing before her, still clutching the cleaver, now dripping with blood. Her expression is one of grief, deep and sorrowful. "What have you done?" the girl's mother wails as her husband stands by, pale and in shock. "I didn't want to, but it was the only way." The babysitter wipes the tears from her eyes, smearing blood across her cheek as she does. "Don't you see?" She looks at the couple expectantly, but they cannot say a word. If they open their mouths again, they know they will be sick. "I had to show you the truth," the babysitter insists. "She wasn't real anyway. I had to take her apart, but I can put her back together. She was a doll, a toy, just like me." She turns her gaze to them, a sudden, wild glint in her tear-filled eyes. She slowly stands and takes a step toward the couple, her expression one of grim determination. The look of someone who is not proud of the blood they will have on their hands, but is still about to spill it anyway. The parents turned to run, but it was too late. She was already on them. She raised the cleaver high, the sharp metal edge glinting menacingly in the low light. "Just like you." This poor unfortunate family, their lost daughter, and a seemingly well-adjusted babysitter turned murderer were not the first people to have their lives destroyed by this strange DVD, and they would not be the last. All over the world, random individuals have opened their mailboxes to find a nondescript DVD with no logo, title, or any other identifying information. If they made the grave mistake of watching the DVD,
then they too inevitably fell prey to the influence of SCP-1432, also known as Doll DVD. SCP-1432 does not refer to the digital video discs themselves, but rather to the piece of content that is contained on them. It is a silent, avant-garde short film that consists of a series of nearly identical scenes. In each sequence, a massive doll chases a young woman through various rooms and down various hallways. The doll's size varies from scene to scene, seemingly expanding or compressing in order to fill larger rooms or fit through smaller doorways. This goes on for 16 minutes before the final scene, a shot of the young woman's body, with the doll's head now in place of her own. But what is it, aside from the unsettling imagery, that makes this video so anomalous? Anyone who views this video for at least 5 minutes will experience a dramatic shift in their perception of reality and of their own identity. The subject will begin to believe, without a shred of doubt, that they and all of the other people and animals in the world are not organic beings, but rather dolls constructed by an unidentified force. This effect results in homicidal tendencies in 73% of subjects. The resulting murders are often messy and emotionally fraught for the subject, who will express remorse for what they have done, while simultaneously believing that killing and mutilating their victim is the only way to show others the truth. The first instance of SCP-1432 on record was discovered in the evidence lockup of a small-town Ohio police station, after a particularly harrowing homicide case drew the attention of Foundation operatives. A 12-year-old boy had watched the video, and several hours later had killed and mutilated his mother and father. The Foundation brought both the DVD and the boy into custody, and a researcher sat him down for an interview. The researcher began the interview by having the boy introduce himself by name. With those formalities out of the way, they could get to the more pressing questions. "Very good," he began. "Now, you believe that you are an artificial toy, is that correct?" The boy nodded. "I am. You are. Everyone I've met is. Probably everyone is, I don't know, At this, he trailed off, his eyes filling with tears. The researcher attempted to comfort him. "It's okay. When did you realize you were a toy?" "I watched a video. Don't remember much of it. About a doll, I think, or something. But after that, I knew. I mean, it was obvious. How could I not have seen it sooner? Everyone was. Everyone, just toys. Everything I felt. That time I hit a home run for the first time, my love for my parents, my dog. All just someone playing with their toys." The researcher pressed the matter a little further. "But if you didn't think like this until after you saw the video, don't you think it possible the video could have made you feel this way, affected your mind somehow?" At this, the boy clenched his fists tight, face reddening with anger. "No! The guy who made the video, he was warning people, don't you get it? He figured it out, and he wanted other people to know, because people need to. They don't deserve to just exist so that somewhere someone gets a good laugh or whatever. It's okay, I understand." "So, did you try to tell your parents about what you'd found out?" The boy began to tremble. The tears that had pooled in his eyes before now flowed freely down his cheeks. I did. They didn't believe me. I kept explaining it to them, but they just didn't understand. I had to show someone. I had to let people know. The only way was to... It couldn't have been just anyone else. I wouldn't get the opportunity like I did with them, but... "I understand. You had to do what you thought was right." The boy pounded his fists on the table, shaking harder than before. His voice wavered with the intensity of his distress. "They're so smart. They know. The only way you find out is to show people what's really inside. So they put in this, they program you so that you don't. They make it so hard. It was all those memories, but I had to. The researcher reached out a hand to pat the boy on the shoulder. "I know. It's okay." The boy wept silently for a moment and then asked, "I'm a good person, right? I had to. I really did." The researcher fought back tears of their own. "You're a good person. It will be all right eventually. I promise." The boy was taken back to his containment chamber and given a sedative to help him sleep. The researcher immediately requested a course of Class A amnestics to help him forget the conversation that had troubled him so deeply. His request was granted, and he carried on with his duties at the SCP Foundation until the next traumatic encounter. All recovered instances of SCP-1432 are kept in a secure filing cabinet in its containment chamber. This chamber also contains a television and DVD player, which are to be used during testing. No instances of SCP-1432 may be removed from the room under any circumstances. Though the Foundation has contained every doll DVD it has come across, The containment process for SCP-1432 has been a bit like tossing buckets of water out of a sinking ship. It may help a little, but the dangerous waters continue to rise just the same. Because of this difficulty in maintaining containment, SCP-1432 has been given the Euclid Object Class. All the Foundation can really do is monitor police communications and keep an eye out for any homicides linked to a DVD. If one such crime is reported, the recovery team will be sent to the scene to retrieve any potential instances of SCP-1432. These suspected DVDs are then tested on D-Class personnel. If the test subjects begin rambling on about dolls and people not being real, then the DVDs are placed in immediate containment. The effort doesn't end there, though. The digital age has made it easier to find recipes, communicate with lost loved ones, and pirate music. But it has also made it simpler for bad actors to share harmful material with millions of strangers. Because SCP-1432 could do untold damage to the population if allowed to go viral, a specialized team must monitor online video sharing platforms for any instances of it. If any are found, they must be deleted as soon as possible, and the IP address of the user who uploaded the video must be traced. Currently, very little is known about the video's origins. It is yet to be determined who made the video, for what purpose, or who will be selected to receive a copy next. There are some forces in this world that you just shouldn't toy with, so be wary of any mysterious DVDs that are slipped into your mailbox. Best just to throw it away immediately. Don't bring it inside the house, don't fire up your DVD player, and definitely don't press play. If you do, it might be the last thing you ever watch.
A child is sleeping happily in their bed, dreaming of Christmas morning. What they don't hear, as they sleep, is the sound of SCP-4666 slipping into their room. SCP-4666 watches the child for just a moment before reaching into a giant bag. Hi, I'm DrBob, and this is SCP-4666, also known as the Yule Man. SCP-4666 is thought to be a single humanoid entity, but one that has been alive for an incredibly long time. Those who have come into contact with SCP-4666 and lived to tell the tale describe him as being very tall, between 2 and 2.3 meters. He also appears to be very old and very thin. He always appears without clothing, even when the weather is below freezing and would be much too cold for any normal human to survive. Though the true extent of his anomalous properties are still unknown, SCP-4666 seems to be able to travel instantaneously to any location on Earth above the 40th line of north latitude, and may actually be able to travel anywhere on the planet. Encounters with SCP-4666 have only been reported during a very specific time of year, a period of 12 nights running from the night of December 21st to the early morning hours of January 2nd. This period is known as SCP-4666's active phase, and the encounters with the anomalous humanoid creature have been termed Weissnacht events. During these events, SCP-4666 appears at family dwellings, all of which, so far, have a few things in common. 1. They are all isolated in rural areas. 2. They are in locations with snow that covers the area for the duration of the event. And 3. They are all home to a family with at least one child under the age of 8. In places that match all of those characteristics, Weissnacht events sometimes occur and always follow the same basic progression. During the first 7 nights, the children will report seeing a strange figure within the vicinity of the home. The entity will seem to be watching the home from a distance, such as from across a field or from the edge of a nearby forest. Some children have even reported waking up at night to find SCP-4666 watching them sleep through a window. On nights 8 through 11, other family members will report hearing the entity, such as footsteps on the roof or in the attic. A bad-smelling odor will also start to be noticed in the house, but no source of the smell is ever found. These strange occurrences will often lead the family to think their house may be haunted, or that they're being terrorized by a madman. Finally, on the 12th night, one of 2 scenarios can occur. In the first, which happens roughly 15% of the time, families will often report that they heard footsteps during the night inside of their house. But there is never any sign of forced entry like
broken windows, or doors. In the morning, the children will find crudely made toys at the foot of their beds. For the lucky ones, this is the end of the Weissnacht event for them. The roughly 85% who experience the other scenario are considerably less lucky. In the vast majority of cases, the 12th night is a horrible experience. SCP-4666 still enters the home on the final night, but rather than leave presents for the children, it incapacitates the family and moves them all into a single room, where it proceeds to kill them one by one in view of the rest of the family. The exact method of killing varies from event to event, but there's almost always an element of torture that occurs before they are finally killed, and this torture may serve a ritualistic purpose. The entire family is killed except for one of the children who is under the age of 8. This child is instead abducted and placed into a giant bag SCP-4666 carries with it. SCP-4666's existence was first noted in 1974 by the Foundation's then-new Anomalous Signature Recognition Program, which alerted the Foundation to several suspiciously similar home invasions and murders that occurred throughout the Northern Hemisphere on the night of January 1st. Further research uncovered evidence for what was most likely other Weissnacht events every single year, dating back all the way to the late 18th century, with there being, on average, a little more than 3 events per year. And there's even been evidence of references to what may be SCP-4666, dating all the way back to the 1st and 2nd century AD. Identical fingerprints have been found at all of the houses which match the conditions for Weissnacht events, and have been matched to a recovered partial print from all the way back in 1873. These fingerprints have characteristics that don't match any known human fingerprints, and the human-like white hairs that have also been recovered do not appear to contain human DNA, or any DNA at all for that matter. In the rare Weissnacht events where SCP-4666 does not murder the family and gifts are left behind, the gifts are anything but normal. The gifts, known as SCP-4666As, appear to be made from the bodies of children that SCP-4666 abducted from other homes. In one case, from 2018, at the home of a family in Alaska, a life-size doll made from the body of a female child was left behind. The doll was wearing a dirty dress made from sewn-together rags that was in some places sewn directly to the skin. Her mouth had been sewn shut and painted red with human blood. Another child's fingernails had been glued over her own, and 3 fingers were missing completely. The scalp had also been replaced with another child's scalp and hair like a crude wig. Worst of all, both eyes had been removed and replaced with 2 stones which were painted to look like eyes. But most frightening of all was that the child who had been turned into a doll was somehow still alive. Authorities took the girl to a hospital where she was able to give a brief interview. She explained that the man who abducted her had killed her parents before putting her into a giant bag where there were other children too. SCP-4666 took the children somewhere deep below the earth in a cave system full of ice and bones. There, they were forced to make crude toys until they couldn't go on any longer, at which point they became toys. The girl, now known to be Ekaterina Morozova, had been abducted 2 years previously in a known Weissnacht event. She survived for only 18 hours after being discovered. An autopsy revealed many terrible injuries, and the cause of death was found to be from severe, sustained malnourishment. SCP-4666 has been classified as Keter and is currently not contained. The Foundation monitors web traffic and law enforcement channels for any evidence of SCP-4666 activity, and especially any potential Weissnacht events, such as cases of stalking reported during the 12-night active phase, or other strange phenomena at houses with young children. Should a Weissnacht event be suspected to be in progress, the nearest containment task force is dispatched to attempt to contain SCP-4666 using the standard PDP-8 humanoid first contact protocols. So far, no such containment attempt has been successful.
Ever worried that someday you might just up and disappear? There's nothing quite like a Sunday afternoon picnic in the park. The fresh air, the lazy hours sprawled out across a blanket, sharing company, food, drinks, and the beauty of the outdoors. The young man and his girlfriend spent their afternoon doing just that, enjoying a bit of slow living on a Sunday. Now, the sunset has streaked the sky with red and orange, and the air is beginning to cool to a less pleasant chill. It's time to pack up the remnants of the picnic and head on home. He carries the blanket, and she carries the basket, each of them keeping one hand free so they can still hold hands. They begin the walk back to the young man's apartment through the steadily emptying park. It's a familiar walk, one they've taken every Sunday for the past year that they've been together, and they take it at the same slow, easy pace as the picnic. There's no rush, not today. That's what Monday mornings are for. Right now, there's just the sunset, the park, and her hand in his. The young man catches a glimpse of a squirrel burying a nut in the dirt under a nearby tree. He goes to squeeze his girlfriend's hand to point out the adorable sight, but she pulls her hand out of his. She's changed course, walking toward a pair of benches, transfixed on something there. She asks in a strangely panicked voice whether he saw it. Strange, he can't spot anything out of the ordinary. The girlfriend insists with unnerving intensity that she saw some kind of strange light for a split second, something that was gone as soon as it appeared, but left an indelible impression. The young man laughs uneasily. Something's wrong. Can't quite explain what it is. The hairs on the back of his neck are standing up. He tries to change the subject back to the squirrel. He turns to point out the squirrel again, but she remains fixated on whatever she can see that he can't. He can feel a knot forming in his stomach, a sense of dread, as his body screams at him to get out of there as fast as he can. He tries to soothe his overactive nervous system, to remind himself that there's no danger here. But just before he turns back to his girlfriend to suggest they hurry home, he hears a soft thud as something lands in the grass. He turns to see the picnic basket lying on the ground, dropped there all of a sudden. His girlfriend is nowhere to be found. He calls out to her, but there's no answer. It's as if she vanished into thin air. Terrified, the young man combs the park for any trace of her, but aside from the picnic basket, there's nothing. He calls the police and files a missing persons report, but there's little they can do. There are no signs of any foul play, no reason to believe anything has happened to her. She was simply there one moment and gone the next. The young man doesn't sleep a wink that night. He calls out of work the next day, determined to continue his search. If the police can't help him, he'll just have to get to the bottom of things on his own. He calls his girlfriend's parents, but they haven't heard from her since Saturday. Her friends haven't seen her or received so much as a text. She didn't go into work either. Desperate for answers, he returns to the park, pacing back and forth in the spot where she vanished by the benches. As he does, he hears a sudden sound that makes his heart leap into his throat. Her voice, just a whisper, as if her lips are mere inches from his ear. She calls his name. She asks him what happened. He doesn't know what to say. He whirls around, searching for her face, but she isn't there. Is it just his imagination? His grief causing him to hallucinate the voice he wants to hear the most? There it is again, her whispering to him, telling him that she loves him, that she misses him, that she can't feel her body anymore. The young man's knees buckle, and he collapses onto the grass, weeping. It's as if she's right there, but just out of reach. He can hear her, but he can't see her, can't touch her. He asks her what on earth happened. I don't know. I don't know where I am. I don't know what I am. I don't. Her voice grows weaker, fading to static. She's fading away, and he can't do anything to hold on to her. His eyes settle on the tree where he saw the squirrel the day before. The bark swirls in a pattern that, when he stares at it too long and lets his eyes unfocus, looks almost like her face. He reaches out, brushing his fingers against the bark. It isn't her. Of course it isn't her. He doesn't hear the voice again. Maybe it was never really there at all. But he can't shake the feeling that she's still there, somehow, somewhere. Like she's just out of sight, on some other plane of existence he can't see. Sitting there, in the grass where she disappeared, he can feel her so clearly in his mind. He has a sudden, vivid memory of their first date. She spilled her coffee all over him, and they had to go back to her place so she could lend him a clean pair of pants. She was terrified he would be angry, but they laughed about it for the rest of the day instead. He could smell that coffee, feel that laughter bubbling in his throat. It's more vivid than a simple memory. It's her, somehow. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he spots something strange. A fluorescent, glowing light, radiating blue and yellow, twisting and turning in his peripheral vision. He turns toward it and climbs to his feet. He reaches out toward the shape, unable to stop himself, and then he's gone. The police would never discover what happened to the couple. How could they? They were victims of a force that the authorities could never hope to understand. This young man and his girlfriend encountered an anomaly known as SCP-5783. SCP-5783 is a semi-corporeal ontokinetic tetrahedral construct. Try to say that 5 times fast. The physicality of the anomaly is of dubious and spurious nature. As a facet of its containment, the anomaly is semanto-conceptually bound to the statement contained within Unit 7783 of Site 196. SCP-5783 cannot always be perceived, and its perceptibility varies depending on the nature of the person attempting to perceive it. When effectively perceived, the anomaly emits a fluorescent glow on the blue-yellow gradient and maintains a fixed position in space no matter what kinetic force is used against it. SCP-7783 is extremely difficult to physically interact with, and can only be done using a complex series of actions known as semanto-conceptual interactivity. This is also the method through which SCP-7783 was contained. There are unfortunate consequences to effectively interacting with SCP-7783 on a physical level. Doing so causes abstraction, biological, conceptual, and ontokinetic in affected subjects. This tends to result in said subject transforming into an intangible conceptual sapience. I'll elaborate a bit more on that side effect in a moment. Individuals subject to the influence of SCP-7783 who are affiliated with the Foundation are referred to as Personnel-Associated Sapient Concepts, or PASCs. These sapient concepts still retain their higher cognitive functions, though they lack the biological functions associated with their original physical human forms. They are still capable of interacting with reality via cognitive subversive impression, or the limited and brief interference in the psychological and neurological activity of sentient and sapient beings in their vicinity. PASC presence can be detected through this brief interference, as well as an increase in pareidoleiac tendencies in those nearby. For those unfamiliar with the term, pareidoleiac tendencies refer to the tendency to see patterns and meaning in random stimuli. For example, seeing a face in a piece of burnt toast, observing a surprised facial expression in the shape of a faucet, or eyes in a wallpaper pattern. SCP-7783 was first discovered by senior researchers Dr. River Corys and Caden Powell while the two were off-duty. Some of the details of this initial discovery have been redacted from the official file due to potential concerns of containment breach, but the general shape of events is easy enough to determine. The two were taking a walk in the park together when they stumbled upon the anomaly. Dr. Corys took matters into his own hands by accident, performing a semanto-conceptual interaction with SCP-7783 without realizing what he was doing. 2 additional personnel were brought in, and the anomaly was successfully bound and contained. However, in the process, Dr. Corys' exposure proved to be too much, and he began the process of PASC transition. Caden Powell specifically requested that all interviews conducted between him and Dr. River Corys during the latter's transformation to be redacted from the official file on SCP-7783. Without those, we only have the general report to go on, but it does still provide an important glimpse into the transformation process. An hour after exposure to SCP-7783's effects, River displayed intact conceptual coherency and acute emotional distress. He seemed to be aware of what was happening to him, as well as his helplessness to stop it. His relationship to his physical form was still intact at this point, but he could feel just how temporary that state now was. After one day, River's conceptual coherency had gone from intact to intermittent. His physical form was still intact most of the time, but it was growing more and more difficult for him to communicate linguistically with Dr. Powell. 1 week later, River's conceptual coherency was described as spurious. There was an increase in cognitive subversive influence, and his biological functions were beginning to shut down as the physical body began to become less and less tangible. After 1 month, River's biological and physical form became entirely abstract. Dr. Powell observed an increase in parietal-like influence, seeing the lost man's face in everything he looked at, even when it could not possibly be there. The leaves on a nearby tree, the bark on its trunk, the ripples in a puddle of water, it all looked just a bit like him. But then Powell would blink and the image would be lost. What would later be regarded as standard PASE influence began to manifest in the area, as exhibited by the parietal-like effects, as well as a general psychic impression. It was most prevalent in the immediate vicinity of the disassociated fruiting body. 1 year after River first stumbled upon SCP-5783, he was entirely converted into an abstract entity. His physical form was lost, and subversive cognitive influences were observable. Even outside of PASE proximity, parietal-like influence persisted for associated individuals. The most affected was Dr. Powell, who continued to see River's face everywhere he looked. It became so prevalent for him that he sought a psych evaluation, but it was confirmed that he was not suffering from any mental illness or grief-induced hallucinations. This increase in pattern seeking by the brain and recognition of facial imagery and random visual stimuli was due to River's lingering PASE influence. After Dr. River Corries was lost to SCP-5783, Caden Powell took on the role of Provisional Containment Director. His #1 priority was to determine methods that might allow for the reversal of SCP-5783's effects. As far as I can tell, no such methods have been uncovered yet. But Powell is persistent and has dedicated every ounce of his brainpower and every resource afforded by the SCP Foundation to uncovering a way to restore those lost to SCP-5783. During my research into SCP-5783, I was able to access an interview between Research Director Caden Powell and D-Class number 78990, conducted as part of a larger study on PASE cognitive subversive impressions. The purpose of this test was to induce an impression in order to open up a line of communication with PASE-01, formerly Dr. River Corries. If PASE-01 could influence the mind of an individual, perhaps that individual could act as a conduit of sorts, through which Powell and River could speak directly. Research Director Powell began the conversation with a polite greeting and the confirmation of D-78990's date of birth and full legal name. D-78990 confirmed his identity and asked what exactly they were doing during this experiment. Powell responded, "Well, essentially, I'm here to just talk to you for a bit, take some notes on your behavior and the like an evaluation of sorts." D-78990 shifted awkwardly in his seat and asked what they should talk about. Powell shrugged. The response shocked D-78990. "Aren't you leading the way?" Powell shrugged again, idly clicking his pen. His brow furrowed, his thoughts seeming to be far away. "I guess we could start with something like, say, a favorite color." "Favorite colors?" The D-Class couldn't help but laugh at that. "Favorite colors? I thought it'd be something more, I don't know, sciencey?" Powell sighed. "Well, I'm mostly just monitoring your behavior, looking for any signs indicative of..." D-78990 sat up a bit more stiffly in his chair, anxiety spiking. "Signs of what? I got cancer or something?" "No," Powell shook his head. "Just... never mind. Why bring up cancer out of all things?" Now it was D-78990's turn to shrug. "I don't know. My dad died of it, long time ago." "What type?" "Lung cancer, stage 4. The conversation felt less like a typical Foundation research interview and more like the makings of an awkward first date. The back and forth, the get-to-know-you dance of questions and half-hearted answers. Powell offered a verbal olive branch, an attempt to sympathize. "I knew someone whose dad passed from lung cancer." "Yeah, well, we probably saw it coming. He was a pack-a-day smoker for..." Powell interrupted. 22 years. D-78990's eyes widened in surprise. "Oh, nice guess. Yeah, 22. You know, I would have loved to work here," D-78990 remarked. "Really?" Powell raised an eyebrow. "What makes you say that? From what I've seen, you don't have a research background." "I wanted to go into medicine when I was younger, you know." Powell nodded. "Would have been nice to work for a place like this, one with a real purpose, you know." Powell smiled weakly. Yeah, it definitely beats working in IT for a bunch of geriatrics. D78990 laughed at the remark, and Powell furrowed his brow, confused. River would have laughed at that joke. At the unexpected mention of his lost partner, Powell flinched. Yeah? D78990 nodded. He would have, yeah. Always hated working back in Loxy. Powell's eyes lit up with nostalgic recognition. Yeah, I remember. I remember it too clearly. D78990 laughed along with him, despite never having worked with Powell and Dr. Corey's in the past. Oh, definitely. It was crazy times, crazy times. Used to get so mad at that place. Get run up for the stupidest stuff, you and... Man, me and him. We really did. Chris always had a stick up his butt, though. Made it hell. He was too old to be working, that's why. Always decomposed at the desk. What was that one joke you made about his nose to me? D78990 was now speaking about Dr. Corey's memories in the first person. Which one? Powell asked. The night after D&B? Oh, the one about him looking 8 and 80 at the same time? D78990 cackled, throwing his head back. Please. Oh, God. River was crying laughing to that. That night was the most he had laughed in a long time then. Powell cracked a smile. Yeah, I remember that night. It was amazing, just making stupid jokes to each other, enjoying the time we had. Like all the time in the world was ours, huh? Made everything better. Life was perfect. Powell sighed. The neighbors didn't hear perfect, D78990 remarked. But the neighbors always complained about how loud we were. Powell shook his head. Well, I was loud. Noisy. That was something you liked about him. D78990 switched back and forth between third and first person, sometimes speaking about River, and other times speaking as if River was talking through him. I still remember his laughing. I still remember it all. D78990 smiled wistfully. He just didn't know how to take it seriously. Powell laughed at that, a smile breaking free from his mask of composure. Ha! Well, yeah, that's how he was. Always loud and bursting with energy. Made every situation colorful. Wonder if this River guy's still like that, D78990 remarked. Oh, he's still out there somewhere. Powell wiped the tear from his eye. Still the life of someone's party. Who is? Powell's stomach dropped. That was it then. The impression was gone. He sighed, composing himself. He wouldn't show his grief to this stranger. He forced a terse, polite smile. Never mind. And that was the conclusion of the interview. D78990 and Dr. Powell had never spoken prior to the interview, nor had D78990 ever previously met Dr. River Corys. Still, with some anomalous intervention, the two had been able to share a few memories of the man, and for a moment, he was still as he was, tangible, human, alive. But the moment was fleeting, as are all impressions of those changed by SCP-5783. As for containment procedures, the specific instructions for the semento-conceptual, or related to the inherent semantic information of a concept in reality, binding of SCP-5783, may only be accessed by a select few specialists. Any personnel assigned to the area are strictly prohibited from any hypothetical, speculative, fantastical, or intimate thought related to SCP-5783. I am only able to engage with the subject matter to this degree from a safe distance, and do not suggest you approach the area after learning this much about the anomaly. Due to its particular nature, amnestics are not sufficient to treat its impact on the human mind. Complete amnesticization of personnel regarding its existence, or lack of existence, would cause semento-conceptual unbinding. This would technically result in a containment breach. Such is the trouble with semi-corporeal constructs. Essentially, as long as it is known to be contained, the containment should hold. If you have a bit of a headache trying to wrap your mind around the whole situation, you are not alone. Though amnestics are not an acceptable solution to SCP-5783 and its influence, selective thought-blocking medications derived from Class C amnestics can be used to induce a sort of deliberate brain fog, a barrier that prevents an individual from thinking about SCP-5783 in any way that extends beyond particular containment-related tasks and day-to-day Foundation operations. Once upon a time, in the earliest days of my research, I may have said that I didn't believe in ghosts. As a man of science, I balked at the concept of that which I could not prove with empirical data. But now I have seen, encountered, and learned of too many inexplicable forces in this world to hold the same view. Perhaps the victims, and I do believe them to be victims of SCP-7783 are not ghosts in the traditional sense. They did not die after all. Their bodies simply dissolved. Their consciousness remained in some form. But is that not what we think of when we think of a ghost? The lingering impression of someone who was once flesh and blood? Take away the body, and what remains, whether you call it a spirit or a personnel-associated sapient concept, seems to meet the criteria. Dr. River Corey's is gone. At least, the part of him that could be seen, perceived, known, and loved. What remains is that brief impression, that glimpse of a memory, ever so brief, that laugh, once shared, never to be heard again. There may not be any rattling chains or creaks on the staircase, but SCP-7783 has created its fair share of what I feel compelled to call ghosts. Agree or disagree with my verbiage, I don't mind. Those left behind are still just as haunted. Check out the DrBob Patreon and become a junior researcher today. Now go and watch another entry from the files of DrBob, like SCP-5150, Anomalous Dental Office.